Europe votes. What did the Social Democrats want? In the interview, Martin Schulz, Social Democrat candidate for European Commission President.
Mr. Schulz, it's the first time ever that parties in Europe are running top candidates for the European Parliament elections next week. You're representing the Social Democrats on a pan-European scale. Have you campaigned in all 28 member states?
Yes, I've been in all 28 countries. Of course, more in some than in others. We're concentrating on the more populous countries. But I've been all across Europe.
If you're successful and become president of the European Commission, the political head of the EU, what would you change first?
We have to win back trust. As part of that, there are three things we have to do immediately. The fight against tax evasion and tax avoidance is very important. Many people see great injustice when speculators make billions in profits and pay taxes on none of it. If they make billions in losses, the taxpayers have to cover them. The second is the youth unemployment that has to be tackled. We have 27 million unemployed in Europe, including 6 million young men and women, some of them highly educated and qualified. The second priority is doing something for these people right away. The third priority is to look at what we've been doing that we could do better on a local, national, or international level. To hand politics back to the people, to give back responsibility, to win back trust.
In Germany, you've involved yourself in the debate over the digital future. Google is disenfranchising people, you say. What can the EU do on a transnational scale to prevent that?
First off, by checking for monopolies. Google, in my opinion, is similar to Facebook or Twitter. They're monopolistic companies that dominate the entire global market. When a company dominates a market on its own, they face a monopoly investigation. But Google isn't. Why is that? Why not? I believe it's in part because we're not opening the market for our own European investments. Why don't we have a European search engine? Why does our digital world depend exclusively on American companies in terms of both infrastructure and the application of technology? It's incomprehensible that the monopolistic position of a search engine is allowed to create such enormous economic distortions. Let me give you an example. If you type Deutsche Welle into Google, should you get smart global German television company? Or should it say, why don't you check out CNN? That's determined solely by algorithms in Silicon Valley, and it has an enormous influence on its hits. That's why I think that investments in the digital future and the opening of the market are urgently needed.
Mr. Schulz, you're president of the European Parliament. Earlier, you were an MEP in Brussels and Strasbourg. Before you entered EU politics, you were the mayor of Würselen, a small city of about 40,000 in western Germany. Many wonder if that is enough leadership experience to take over this enormous bureaucracy that is the EU executive branch.
Yes, I'm asked this question again and again. And I always give the same answer. True, I was just a mayor of a small city, but I experienced people's everyday concerns about your children's schools, about your job, about your parents, who have to be taken care of every day. And I think nowadays what people expect from Brussels is that the head of the Commission is someone who knows their everyday concerns and takes them seriously. I absolutely do have experience to bring to the table.
Why is it that fewer and fewer Europeans vote in these elections? Last time it was only 43%. Why is the EU so politically distant from the people?
We have to see how high the turnout is. I think it'll go up. We've been debating Europe in every country for 5 years. That people would then say, I'm not voting, I don't think so. I think the turnout will rise, not massively, but these are the first elections in which citizens can decide who heads the commission. That alone creates greater interest. Voting has to be exciting for people to go to the polls. Till now, European elections weren't very exciting. We're trying to make them so.
What happens if you're wrong? If people say, that's not mine, my vote makes no difference?
I don't believe that. We're at the very beginning. Since 1979, voter turnout in direct elections has gone down because hopes that the European Parliament could be strong weren't realized. It's not just the Parliament that's at fault there. Some heads of government didn't want to see that happen. They just don't say so openly. That's becoming more visible now. Parliament is saying we're electing the head of the Commission, and the heads of government say we're not bound by that. The conflict is triggering interest among people at the events I attend. They say we want to see if our votes really count or not. That's why I think turnout will increase. We're beginning a new chapter of European transnational democracy. And after the election, we have to see what worked and what didn't. But this process, in my opinion, shouldn't be reversed.
Dieser Prozess ist meiner Meinung nach nicht zurückzudrehen.
Opinion polls show that many populists and EU opponents will be sitting in Parliament, along with radicals from the left and the right. They could control up to a third of the seats. That begs the question, how capable will the Parliament be in the future, and how credible?
I don't think they'll have a third of the seats. That would be extremely exaggerated. But let's say they reach 130. We'll still have 620 representatives from the constructive, pro-European spectrum. They'll be doing what they've been doing so far in Parliament. They'll come and speak out against any possible scapegoat, suggest solutions for nothing, and subsequently pocket their parliamentary allowance. That's what they've been doing all along.
Let's suppose that you or your conservative opponent has the most votes after the election. A majority in Parliament rallies behind you and tells the leaders of member states, now please elect the Commission President. They don't have to do that. They could choose someone else.
Das muss der Rat aber nicht tun. Der kann auch jemand anderes wählen.
They can, but he wouldn't have a majority in Parliament. The people who sit on the European Council, the heads of state and government, nominated 3 candidates at their party conventions. The 12 social democratic governments nominated me, the Conservatives, Mr. Juncker, and the Liberals, Mr. Verhofstadt. They won't say, April Fools, we didn't really mean it. François Hollande told Le Monde last weekend that the Council will respect the results of these elections, so I think they'll choose one of the candidates.
Germany's Social Democratic Party chairman, Vice-Chancellor Sigmar Gabriel, warns the electorate could be cheated big time, so something is afoot that speaks against that.
You do have people, not government chiefs themselves, but the people who surround them, who will say in off-the-record conversations, the Council is not at all bound by the results. And that's true, it isn't. But the Parliament isn't either. I truly believe that the European Council will take the candidate who can put together a majority of votes in the European Parliament. I think Jean-Claude Juncker and I have the best chances. I think I'll ultimately come out ahead. And I'm certain that the Council and Parliament will find a corresponding solution.
Ich bin ziemlich sicher, dass der Rat dann auch mit dem Parlament ein entsprechendes Verfahren finden wird.
Mr. Schulz, Europe sees a challenge in Moscow. Russia is pursuing a neo-imperialist foreign policy toward its neighboring states. The annexation of Crimea, the breakaway part of Moldova, and in the Caucasus. How did it come to this? Did the EU make a mistake in working with Russia, letting Putin do whatever he likes in what he sees as his backyard?
That's a difficult question to answer. I think the Russian government, and Putin personally, has felt a great sense of humiliation in recent years. I say that at risk of being perceived as a Russia sympathizer. I do understand Russia quite well, since I'm very much concerned with the prevailing political circumstances in Russia. That's why I'm saying I think much of what's behind it is humiliation. But humiliation doesn't justify violating international law. The one-sided annexation of Crimea was a violation of international law. That's why Russia has to accept sanctions if it continues to act in this way. Still, I could find it good if our population were to say, if these sanctions come, they'll be tough for us as well. That means for us, rising gas prices, no further investment in our industry in Russia, capital flight. Less so from Germany, but certainly Russian capital from Britain. It means freezing Russian assets. It also means no weapons exports to Russia. So those are tough sanctions against Russia that I would support if Russia continues to violate international law. But I also know, as someone who has worked for years in international politics, that the best path to easing tensions is finding common interests. In the end, I don't think Russia is interested in a confrontation because it, too, would take a hard economic hit, above all, the people close to Putin. That's why the path taken by German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier, as tough as it may be, is the right one, to try to create dialogue. At the same time, you have to say, if it fails, we're prepared for sanctions.
Can Russia, as it is currently, remain a partner of the EU?
Politics are dynamic, but currently, no. We're currently moving apart from one another. But I'm convinced that will hurt Russia more than the EU, and I'm certain this view will also win out in Russia. It depends on us staying persistent in making this dual strategy visible. We're prepared for dialogue with you, but if you're not ready, we're also prepared to make consequences. Again, I would welcome us saying openly to European citizens that this could happen, and that it would mean hardship for Europeans as well.
Martin Schulz, leading candidate for the European Socialists and Democrats. Many thanks for your interview with DW.
Thank you.